Welcome back to Pottery Central. Tonight we're going to show how to do some basic glazing techniques. Obviously we want to show everybody all the different facets of making pottery, and this is one thing that tends to be overlooked online, maybe because it's hard, or maybe because their glaze room is all cluttered like mine and they don't want anybody to see it. But either way, I want to get in a rhythm, just like when I'm throwing pots. I want to get in a rhythm when I'm throwing glaze on things, or glazing pots. So typically I'll wait until I have at least 25-30 pieces before I actually glaze. I'll clean the table off. I'll put on some jams, preferably something that's kind of upbeat so it keeps me motivated. I'll put clean paper down on the table and I'll line up my pots in order. I don't actually number them, but I just kind of keep them, have a designated spot on the table. That way, when I'm working on, say, pots 1 through 10, and then I finish those up, and then I'm on pots 11 through 20, pots 1 through 10 are drying. Then I can go back and readdress the first 10 pots. Tonight I'm just going to do a real simple demonstration of how to glaze T-bowl, or a lot of people want to call it a chawan now, to be politically correct, I believe. I'm going to sand any hard edges. It's a good idea to not sand over other people's work. It's a good idea to sand outside. It's even a better idea to wear a respirator. I usually will sand over the sink just so that all the dust doesn't hit the floor. Any hard edges are going to get sharper because clay shrinks, 12.5%, 13% depending on the clay body. So hard edges are going to get sharper. Knock down any hard edges. I always hit my name. Since I brought up the name, it would be nice if potters would sign to where you could actually read what's on there. And I think that I write pretty legibly because I use all caps, and I encourage my students to make an effort to make it to where you can at least identify the piece. There's certainly collectors groups, and the whole reason they're online as collector group is to try to figure out what these different signatures mean. Who's that? What in the world? It's, yeah, you can't tell. So, why are we creating a big mystery? When I'm dead and gone and Antiques Roadshow 3000 is looking up my stuff, I want them to know, hey, this is Andrew Linton from Charlotte, North Carolina, and he made all these pots and taught all these gazillion people how to do this. Why make it a mystery? Always check the inside. Make sure there's no sharp point in there. I was at a show one time, and I had a customer who, we had talked extensively, and she had a Soji Hamada pots and Bernard Leach pots, and just every famous person that she could throw out there, she had their pots. And she's an older Japanese lady, and she gently took my hand and she put it across the bottom of one of my T-bowls that had a point in it. Needless to say, I've never ever left a point in the middle of a T-bowl again. Make sure the lip is smooth, there's no hard edge on there. Alright, I've obsessed enough. The next step would be to rinse any dust off the pot. So when I'm teaching people, I say, you sand, rinse, wax. It almost sounds like you're doing some kind of, home maintenance or car maintenance or something. So after you sand, rinse, and wax, then you're going to line the pot or put glaze on the interior of the pot. The reason that you do the inside first is, well, because it's a lot easier to do the inside and not get and just wipe the exterior glaze off if you get it running down, than it is to have it pop into the inside if you were, say, submerging it into the glaze bucket. Some people just use tongs, dip the entire piece. If you've waxed the foot, then that's fine because, of course, the glaze isn't going to stick to the foot. A lot of times I'll just dampen the foot and submerge it and then wipe it as it comes out. That works great with lighter colored glazes or glazes that don't contain red iron oxide or some kind of strong colorant that's going to get in the nooks and crannies of the clay body and make it look sloppy or lower your craftsmanship. So let's go ahead and rinse the pot. You should come in here with clean hands to begin with, because if you've got anything, even like grease off your face, and you touch your pot, it will potentially cause you a problem with the glaze having a defect after firing. So I want to rinse this as fast as I can. One thing I should mention about rinsing the pots is that you're trying to get all the dust off and any kind of foreign matter, of course, but you don't want to super saturate the pot. So it's kind of like this. Imagine this is the wall, okay? And you've only got so much space for absorption. So once you rinse the inside and the outside, then this is all you got. So you got to be very careful that you don't super saturate your pot, or this is all you're gonna have. You want to be able to have the pot still take the glaze as evenly and thickly as you want for the result in the tile. So this is a good example here. This is I think most of our viewers have probably heard of Pete Pinnell before, and I'm trying to remember where he teaches, but it doesn't really matter. This is one of his glazes. It's called bronze green, and this is on a white clay body that we actually make here. This is an in and out application, and this is a 5 count of the same glaze. So you can see it's a dramatic change between the 5 count and the in and out. Also, what affects this is, of course, how much absorption you have left in your wall. So if you rinse your pot, you know you've rinsed it too long, don't go ahead and glaze. Wait, hurry up and wait. That's like the best advice I can give anybody glazing. If it looks wet, when in doubt, wait. Don't touch it, don't mess with it, don't rub on it, just wait. Set this in spot 1. And then I'd move on to pot 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, to 30. And then pot 1's ready. Okay, so now we're on to the next phase. So I said, okay, we're gonna sand, rinse, wax. This is the wax part. So we use 2 types of wax here at Pottery Central. We use a water-based wax. It's called Forbes wax. And then we use an oil-based wax. We're not gonna really talk about the oil-based wax today because that's for another episode, I think. One thing I like to do is designate a wax area. So I'll put like a glossy piece of paper down somewhere, and that'll be my wax area, so I can avoid getting wax anywhere in the glaze area that I could potentially contaminate another pot or the pot I'm working on. We use that water-based wax that's normally clear and add food coloring to it. This particular time we lucked into some East Carolina purple. Pirates. So hold it sideways, make sure that you don't have any wax anywhere. The brush, actually, all you have to do is, contrary to popular belief, wash it out, even with just water, and the wax will come out. You can even soak them in warm water if some student accidentally forgot to wash their brush out, which never happens here, because all my students are perfect. I'm holding it sideways so that if the wax starts to run, it runs on my foot. I also trim the pot to where I have clean lines that I can use to make it easier for me to have a high level of craftspersonship. So once I have the entire foot covered, and if I know I'm going to submerge the foot, I really need to wax it, unless I know I'm using a clear glaze or white glaze. As I mentioned earlier, you don't want to get these little small areas to clean glaze in there, because it looks sloppy. And this is about paying attention to details, not just slapping glaze on. I try to approach this in a really scientific way. That's why I try to break it into steps.